without further ado, we had a conversation yesterday on these airwaves, Bill, regarding potential rule changes in college football to speed the game up and also for safety concerns also. And the guy that reported that is on the line, Ross Dellenger of SI.com. Good morning, Ross. We were talking about these 4 different rules in play that were brought up by college football executives. And the one that we really glommed onto was potentially having a running clock after incomplete passes. Can you explain any sort of reason why that would be brought up in a conversation, Ross?
Yeah. Well, it's just one of 4 proposals. I think it's certainly the most controversial of this group of proposals right now, and it'll be one that I think we'll see quite a bit of debate next week in the committee room, because there is some split and there is some division on that one. All the other proposals really just align with what the NFL does, but this one does not. Right? This one's a little, like I said, a little more significant and impactful to the game, and would potentially change the offensive game. And so I think the first 3, which is the back-to-back, prohibiting back-to-back timeouts and the no untimed downs after the first and third quarter, after defensive penalties in the first down stuff, running the clock after a first down. I think those 3 are on the path to passing, but this one is a little more tricky.
Ross, Bill Bush here. Obviously, we have a very good friendship, and just so impressed with your career, and obviously being with Sports Illustrated now. Just me and Sipple were talking about this the other day about the excitement about back in the day when Sports Illustrated magazine showed up on. It was just like Xanadu when that happened. So, what you've done with your career is amazing. Obviously, me and Ross have something in common, that both of our dads were high school football coaches.
Oh,
at that. So
okay.
Ross's career, how he took this thing over, and I've always felt, you're a boots on the ground type of person, because the last time we were talking and texting, you were right outside of the door of the vote that was going on, that was going to be talked about the coaching staff. Remember that? Which tells me,
yes, indeed.
Which tells me again, it's boots on the ground. Could you explain, Ross, to the people exactly how the coaching staffs where they were talking about expanding to let analysts coach on the field, and then where that stands now?
Thank you.
Yeah. There was a proposal, basically from the kind of the NCAA competition committee, and it rose through the ranks to the football oversight committee, which makes a lot of football rules and passes a lot of football rules. And they had a recommendation that they sent to the Division I Council. I don't know, all these NCAA governance terms can get confusing, but the Division I Council basically is right now the authoritative council. And so they make decisions based on recommendations from the committees underneath them, which one includes, again, the football oversight. And so they recommended that basically analysts and support staff members can be hands-on and can coach, and right now we all know that that is against the rules, that the 11 coaches, full-time coaches, 10 assistants, and 1 head coach are the only ones that can really hands-on coach players, and support staff and analysts can do film work and all that stuff and scouting, but are not supposed to be hands-on. Now, I think Bill knows as well as I do that there are plenty of schools out there that have analysts and support staff members who do coach. It's not supposed to happen, but it does, and it's really hard for the NCAA police to police it. And I think part of the reason this was proposed is the NCAA doesn't have to worry about policing it anymore,
right.
And so they can take the handcuffs off of these analysts and support staff and just let them legally hands-on coach. Now they can't recruit. They wouldn't be able to recruit in the proposal. They wouldn't be able to recruit off campus. That would still be the 11 coaches, but they'd be able to coach. Now, you were talking about how I was outside that room right about a month ago at the NCAA convention. The D1 Council took up that recommendation and did not pass it, which is fairly unusual. Fairly unusual, actually, the D1 Council to reject a recommendation. However, we are going to probably see that recommendation come back. And so it got sent down to the football oversight for some, what I was told, language tweaking. And it's supposed to be sent back up probably in April at the D1 Council meeting. And I would expect it to pass then. I think from what I understand, the issue was the actual language in the legislation. There were some concerns from D1 Council members. So I still think it probably does get through, but we'll see come April.
That's great information.
Excellent off-season talk here from Ross Dellenger of Sports Illustrated. Ross, isn't this mainly a matter of a level playing field? Because there are some schools, I mean, think Toledo versus Alabama in this discussion. Toledo just doesn't have the money to have all these analysts and all these guys with strange names attached to the titles, strange titles, versus Alabama can send out 50 guys out there to coach. Is that what we're talking about? Is that the hesitancy of some people just because it's not a level playing field, or am I off base?
Yeah, I mean, that's probably a really big concern for some folks in the D1 Council, especially those that do work in the group of five. You know, D1 Council is made up of, I think it's around 30 or 35 people in there. Each conference basically is represented, so each level is represented, and I think there's a lot of people in there from the group of five conferences that are in the FCS conferences that are not fond of this, because we all know what this means. If you don't already have a stacked support staff or analyst group, coaches will get there if they can now be hands-on and coach. So you'll have a offensive line coach, and you'll also have an assistant offensive line coach, and you also have an assistant to the assistant of the offensive line coach, right? And so we'll probably see a lot of that, and it will further the gap between the not even the Power Five and the Group of Five, but really the top 15 to 20 in the Power Five. And we've seen that group in a lot of ways, because of money, kind of break off a little bit and spend a lot more. And so, yeah, the equity in legislating equity, the NCAA's tried to legislate equity with rules for years. And what they're seeing is that some of this legislation violates antitrust law, and they're trying to get free of that. And the Alston ruling from the Supreme Court a year and a half ago was behind a lot of these changes.
Okay.
Join me, Ross Dellenger, SI.com. Regarding some new faces this year in college football rosters, and a big one at Colorado and Deion Sanders prime time making his debut. There, Jackson State, good run now at Colorado in the Pac-12. I'm curious, do you think it will work out for Deion at Colorado, or are you hesitant about what that looks like for him with the Buffaloes?
Well, when Deion took the Jackson State job, and I've got a history there. I was a Jackson State beat writer back in 2010, 2011.
Wow.
I covered that program based in Jackson. And that was basically about 3-4 years out of college. And so that was kind of my early going there. And when he took over there, I knew about the situation financially with Jackson State and the SWAC and the facility situation and the lack of resources. It's pretty bad. And I figured I thought, what the heck is Deion Sanders doing taking this job? And then I thought, there's no way he's going to win here. And lo and behold, right, he proved me wrong. And he proved me wrong by, I think, marketing the school in a way that it's probably never been marketed. And he proved me wrong by hiring surrounding himself by some good assistants, and having the ability to recruit players like he has. And that's how he's done it. As they say, Bill, right? The Jimmy and Joes, right? They're more important than the X's and O's. And I think that he's getting the Jimmies and the Joes at Jackson State and he had better players than any other SWAC team. Now, he's already started to get the Jimmy and Joes quite a bit at Colorado, it looks like. And the Buffaloes seem to be rolling quite nicely. The thing is he won't be far and above talent-wise Pac-12 schools, like he was at Jackson State. He was head above everybody when it came to talent. So that's the only kind of concern that I have, is that he won't have that talent gap. He will get more talented players than Colorado's seen in a while, but he won't have that talent gap. That said, winning 7-8 games at Colorado is still a success, and it seems like he has the talent that should be able to do that.
Okay, let's just keep this simple, Ross Dellenger of Sports Illustrated. No off-season rule questions or anything like that. No counsels. I just want you to give Nebraska's hire of Matt Rule a grade. A, B, C, D. You can put pluses and minuses if you want. What's your grade of Nebraska's hire of Matt Rule, and why?
Well, I think I think that a lot of people, probably if you ask them November 1, if you ask them who's the biggest name in the head coaching pool for this college football cycle, I think the majority of people would have told you that number one name is Matt Rule.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think in a lot of ways Nebraska got the number one pick in the pool for this coaching cycle. Matt has built 2 college programs and done it fairly quickly within about 3 years at Temple and then at Baylor. I visited him and spent a whole day with his staff at Baylor his last year there when they were really rolling. I think I visited there when they were undefeated. They were like 7-8-0 or something like that, and it was impressive. It was an impressive kind of culture and the team and players, and how he had everybody on the same page. And so I think that they made a hire that a lot of people, would certainly grade as arguably the best of this cycle. I think the only one, and you'd look at some that are right up there, right? I think probably a lot of people would say that Luke Fickell's hire at Wisconsin was right up there with it, and maybe even you'd get some people to say that Hugh Freeze's hire, especially fit-wise at Auburn, made a lot of sense and was right up there. But certainly, I think Nebraska in the end got their guy. It sounds like it took a few times to go back to Matt a couple different times to try to convince him in whatever way, whether it be the contract stuff or whatnot. But in the end, it seems like they got the guy that they were focused on in the beginning. Very, I would say a pretty dang successful and certainly splashy hire. I look forward to seeing how they'll do.
Okay, outstanding. Ross, real quick, Bill Bush here again. I don't know if people know this, but Ross is calling from Washington, D.C.
Did not know that.
That he's basically the president's right-hand man, how I see it. From where he lives, he's not that far away from the White House, so he is right there and able to go.
Well, he can help that president.
Yeah, he's very he does a lot of stuff. Also, we went political here, Ross. We try to stay away from gambling and politics, but Sipple threw that one out there, so we're trying to. Now we got a whole new game here.
No, we don't.
Whole new game here.
We don't have a whole.
Look out, Bill. Look out.
That's what I've got, and I'm inexperienced at this stuff, so I'm trying to go through the waters here.
Yes, you're doing well, Bill.
Real quickly, not quickly, but just give us a brief synopsis of what you think, how this is going to unfold for us. Where anything major changing, or what's going to happen this year as we're leading into the playoffs? What do you think? How do you feel things? How this playoff, the 12-team playoff, is going to be ready to go in 1 year?
Yeah, well, it's it's interesting because everything kind of aligns with 2024. The SEC will expand with Texas and Oklahoma. The Big Ten will get USC and UCLA in 24. The new media rights deals from a couple leagues kick in or about 4 leagues kick in 24, and then you got the playoff expansion in 24. So 2024 looms as a really significant season in college football. And I think the biggest thing we're watching right now, as far as, the expansion of the college football playoff, which will happen that season as well, is what happens with all the additional money that is coming from this expanded playoff, which is a lot of money. It's probably $1 billion right now. The playoff garners about $600 million. The 14 playoff, they're looking at $1.5 to $2 billion for 12-team playoffs. And Bill, you just kind of in this thing in as a coach on the ground level, and what's going on with NIL and college athletes' rights, and it's going to be really interesting to see how that new money is distributed to leagues, conferences, schools, and players. And it'll be interesting to watch as we move forward, because over the summer, or by the end of the summer probably, the college commissioners will have probably decided on how to distribute that money. And you mentioned I was in D.C. There's obviously a lot going on here with discussions of college athlete bill and rights and NIL bill and stuff like that. And, Senator Tuberville from Alabama seems to be drafting something. I just, I don't have faith in much when it comes to congressional movement. It moves extraordinarily slow, and it's been 4 years of them talking about a college athlete bill, and we've seen not one get to the floor. So I don't know that Congress is the answer. College football is going to need to figure out something here in the way of revenue distribution or distribution to athletes at some point. And it starts probably with that playoff money. It'll be interesting to watch that going forward.
Great.
Ross, wonderful insight. Thank you for all the stuff this morning. We will chat with you again down the road.
All right, guys. See y'all.
Great job.
Awesome. DellengerSI.com.
Oh, man. There's
From
a lot.
Washington, D.C.
There's a lot to break down in that interview.
Tons.
But one thing that really, now you can come at me on this, Bill. I guess you
Come
could.
at you how?
On this
You have to
matter.
say something first before we come out here.
True.
Frost being targeted for using analysts and whatever GA as coaching on the field. That was ridiculous. And the reaction around here was largely ridiculous. People acting like he committed some major violation. That was ridiculous. And I'm sorry.
You think Nebraska fans act like that?
Some did. I mean, I immediately wrote, my God, really? Are we doing this? This is ridiculous.
I can't speak on it because I wasn't here at that time whenever the violation took. So I can't speak for it at all. But I'll say this: the general feeling of any college coach, assistant coach, and I'm not speaking for every head coach, but in general, you're not talking about, well, this is crap because so-and-so, I know they've got analysts that are coaching. Nobody cares.
Right.
Nobody cares. It's like one of those things that just there's people doing things or people are talking on the field. No one cares. No one's like, why'd you lose? Also, when there's this talk about the assistant has the assistant, I think that's crap. Now, Ross was right, but what I think is crap about it is like I'm running my meeting. I don't know. This isn't like a bunch of guys. Hey, what do you think back there? Right. Shut up. I got it. I got this meeting.
All right.
That's how we're going to run it. So having more is not better. It's not like having 60 coaches is going to make you better. It does not make you better.
All right,
having a couple assistants that can run some drills for you when you split up, that's how it gets better.
Thank you, Bill. Now, here's where I'm – okay, go back to – I know we're jumping around a little bit. Go back to the scene where Alberts and Scott –
Trev Alberts. Yeah,
Trev and Scott were standing at the podium after this all came out, after this NCAA violations came out. And remember how disgusted Frost looked.
He did.
Now, when you think about it, of course he was disgusted. We're all, there's 50 media members there, and it's like a big to-do, and his boss is standing by him. And think about what Bill just said. Nobody gives a damn about it in college football. I didn't give a damn about it. He had some analyst coaching, and people are waggling their finger at Frost. It was ridiculous. The whole scene was disgusting. Am I wrong?
You're not wrong, but people glom onto negative news.
Am I wrong?
They try to make it.
Am I being obnoxious?
like I said, I don't have knowledge of that scenario.
It was
I thought it was ridiculous.
It was
We
ridiculous.
both
I'm just
thought it was
saying,
a little
in general,
ridiculous.
It was over the top.
no one walks around if you're not. When I was at Wisconsin or LSU or whatever, I didn't walk around and see someone from Auburn and go, "Hey, I heard you guys got analysts on the field."
God.
We didn't even talk about that. It's like, whatever. We got our
I
own
mean,
problems.
the
Who
boss is
cares?
standing there with a
Right.
big suit on, and here's Frost getting,
Yeah.
we're making a big
He's like,
deal
this
of
is
it.
Stupid.
You're
Because it
right.
was stupid.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. And I'm sure what was going through his mind is, are we really doing
This
this?
is seriously happening.
Yeah.
But remember that. But that came down from the NCAA. It wasn't that.
No, it came
So-
down
so-
from the NCAA. You're
so,
right.
So the response was from the NCAA. It wasn't that. That's where the response had to come from. They're the ones that handed out penalties. So this wasn't self-imposed from inside.
I'd have to look at that a little bit.
Regardless, I think reaction from the fans was, again, there was two responses. Some are saying, "Okay, wow, what are we doing here?" But most were saying, "Seriously,
Yeah, I think
this is a
most-
big,
I hope
this is a
that's
big
what-
deal."
hope
I
that's
think
what-
that was the majority of the
Okay.
response was seriously.
All right. I hope you're right.
Speaking of guests, we had Ross Dellenger on. You want to let him know, Bill, who we have on tomorrow at 6:30 that you've lined up? You've been on the phone.
We have a former outstanding black shirt is going to be on the program at 6:25 or 6:30.
Yes,
right there. Calling from the state of Ohio, originally from the state of Mississippi. Jimmy Burrow will be on that. That's Joe Burrow's dad, and Jimmy played here in the 70s. Great player, like I said, former black shirt. So look forward to having him.
Jamie
on.
Burrow's dad.
Yeah, and so I think,
And
yes.
another Burrow, Jamie Burrow, and there's another Burrow that played for. Oh, this is embarrassing. There's
Yeah.
two boys that played for
Yeah,
Nebraska.
name it.
Oh, you got it?
No, I got it.
of course
Okay.
he knows it.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is
Jamie.
your trivia.
No, I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna let you try to get
Okay.
this.
Jamie Burrow was a middle linebacker, and he started on the team that played Miami in the Rose Bowl.
Yep.
He was their leading tackler, actually. And his brother, Jamie, and
Dan,
Dan.
that's Raph. Sorry, Raph.
Dan.
Texted. Dan,
I was waiting.
Is Raph?
Dan was-
Raph
Yeah.
has my
Dan-
back routinely.
Dan was a huge part, and Jamie was too, but Dan was a huge part in the recruiting of Joe to LSU because I coached Dan here. I didn't coach Jamie, obviously a great player. Friends with
You coached
Jamie.
Dan.
I coached Dan here. And so I was talking to him as I was on the campus at Eastern Arizona in Thatcher, Arizona, which is in the middle of nowhere, Arizona, out in the quad of the dorms to talk to him about getting Joe to come to LSU.
Oh, this is awesome. So this is going to happen
Jimmy Burrow tomorrow
tomorrow.
at 6:25.
So we can talk about some Husker football, some days that passed, the recruitment of Joe. I'm sure he'll have some insight because I know that you guys have mentioned before that Joe was recruited here, and so you guys can have some insight on that.
many times.
That was awesome how you left me to hang out to dry.
Yeah, well, I
when
wanted
I
to
couldn't remember the name of Jamie's brother.
Dan.
I thought you didn't know, and I'm like,
And
okay, we're in a big
also,
trouble.
Real,
He
real,
knows.
real quick here.
Yeah.
Dan met his wife right now. They're married at the Auburn game when we came back, and Joe had a fourth quarter, like 80-yard drive to kick the field goal to beat Auburn at Auburn. He met his future wife at that game.
Wow,
Another great
connections
story.
everywhere.
Yeah.
Love it.
touchdowns everywhere.
Yeah.